Is another edition of the ComicCorp podcast brought to you by RealNerdCorp.com, RealNerdCorp.com. I think I spelled that right. I'm your host, as always, Chad Porto. Joining me, as always, is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, how are you?
I'm here.
We're here, and I got nothing. So we have a few things to catch up on. We're gonna talk about the Arrow series finale. We're gonna address My Hero Academia finally killing off a character for the first time that I can remember among the faces. We have another female-led reboot on the TV side of things. Give you one guess what network it's going to, Marcus. We're also talking Birds of Prey and a little something fun that I just saw that I think Marcus would enjoy. So first, we're going to start with the Arrow series finale. Let's just be honest. This show died after season 5, and it never found its legs again.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they did a great job at rebounding after those last two, after 6 and 7 with 8, because it was sincerely felt like a love letter to the fans
Mm-hmm.
that have stuck around as long as we have. I mean, I feel like we've been around. It wasn't what 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think they did a great job in building in season 8, building a lot of that credibility back. But for me, that the last episode of Arrow was when scene before they went off to raise Mia, and after the man basically died twice, it's like it's only so much feelings we can build up for that finale, which it was okay. It was okay. I mean, they'll always be able to give me and you with anything Dipper related, specifically when it comes to his emotions towards Oliver. So, but other than that, it was kind of gathering. But we'll get to the details. But it wasn't as impactful as it probably was intended. I think even the viewership showed that.
Well, I think part of the problem is a lot of people didn't even realize that the series finale of Arrow wasn't part of the crossover. Like that was poor planning on their parts to have the series finale happen after the crossover. Because truthfully, I thought the crossover was the series finale.
Interesting.
So I think there might have been a grouping of people who thought of it like that, and truthfully, I think a lot of people really only tune in anymore for the crossovers. Most of the time beyond that, you're going to be getting the people that these shows are specifically made for, and not a broader audience like they used to have. So it's a hodgepodge of conflicting situations that led to a very disappointing rating. But they canceled the series for a reason, and now we know why.
Yeah.
So yes, Marcus.
No, no, go ahead. I was
Oh,
coughing.
okay. The one thing two things that I think did stand out about the series finale. One, the return of Roy, the Wonder Boy. He's always fantastic. And if you really want to get me on back on the Arrowverse bandwagon, CW, you're gonna try something with the Stargirl stuff, but we already know that's not part of this universe. So like, all right. And what you could do is do a Thea Roy buddy cop TV show. I think that would be
Interesting.
highly enjoyable, and it would document their reemerging of a relationship and marriage and children and whatnot. Because we got Roy back, we got Thea back. Roy's got one arm. That's cool, I guess. And he's all like, "Hey Thea, do you want to do the marrying?" And she's like, "You ever gonna run off like a giant doofus again?" And he's like, "Nah." And she's like, "All right." Conflict resolution. Thoughts on Roy and Thea getting lay hitched?
I think it was cool. I liked it because for both of those characters, just for their journeys, they started together. I don't know. I don't think you probably caught the basically the overview of the series as a whole, because it was like a 2 hour finale thing where they basically had the cast talking about the series, and then they aired the second hour was like the actual finale. But
Ooh.
that felt more of a finale thing. I'll see if I could find it and send it to you. But it was really good, and yeah, it had people talking about like this their favorite villains and favorite seasons. And of course, boy David Ramsey said season 2 was his favorite, most of due to Manu Bennett. And I love the actress that plays Mia, but she said, I think she said her favorite villain. Did she say it was freaking Dark? I think she might have said Dark. Either Dark or somebody said Richard Dragon. I just cringed. But yeah, that was cool. But when it comes back to Roy and Thea, that is an interesting idea about a spinoff. But I think for both of those actors, I think they kind of it feels like they're kind of done with the serialized television thing, specifically long term, because we've seen both of them kind of step away from the series.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Colton Haynes for personal reasons, but I think um, it kind of just I mean those things they're shooting away in Canada for a long time, long hours every year constantly. So I think it became daunting on probably on Willa, and we don't see her in a plethora of things anyway. And she doesn't seem like she is like real likes the spotlight a lot anyway. So I felt like it was an appropriate ending for those two characters, and specifically just for those actors to return, specifically Colton Haynes for as much as he did of the season, because it might have not been the easiest thing, the journey he had to go through with the ups and downs, but I think coming back to something so I guess pleasing in terms of how people viewed him, because people love him on the show. I think it probably easy to step into because there wasn't a lot of just the hate and the vitriol that can come along with some of the struggles he's had to deal with when it comes to these shows, because it's kind of where a lot of people who appreciate the people in the LGBT community kind of come to anyway. So
Yeah, I forget her name. Sierra Renee, I think, was her name. The woman who played Hawk Girl in season 1 of Legends and the
yeah,
first crossover. She was
yeah,
very down. Part of the reason why she left was she didn't like the fan base. Like she thought it was you know, too intense. But Colton
yeah,
Haynes, he didn't just leave the show. That's kind of like a misnomer. He left Hollywood. He stopped acting for a little while because he was coming to grips with his sexuality and having to come out. And he left pretty much a show that he could have been on for the rest of its run in Teen Wolf to come to Arrow, and that was a big gamble. And he kind of already caught a lot of flack from that fan base when he made the move. So he'd already kind of been slammed with it every so often with the intensity of fandoms. So to see him come back like he had over the last few years, even though in sporadic roles, and now this past season in a more predominant one, it's refreshing to see that he's adjusted to his reality really well, and that new arm looks pretty cool. Armless Roy.
yeah. That was interesting that they kept that in, because I thought that might have been something that, and that's something we're gonna get into. It is real murky waters about the whole reset of the universe and everything that we see or don't see. How they just automatically pin that on Oliver like he was sitting in front of a chessboard and moved everything however he felt at the time.
Right? Like you can't let a Greg Berlanti universe be led by Greg Berlanti. Too many nonsensical things happen. So basically, Mia goes back to the future. The character Renee becomes like some civil servant. I forget what like a councilman. He's running for office or some shit. Uh,
Yeah, he's taking Lance. That's his name. Shout out to Lance.
right. So the big one though came at the end when John Diggle was basically carjacked by a big green light. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of people who think that this is a Green Lantern ring. But it's specifically left out for a reason. Because they don't have, for whatever godforsaken reason, the ability to say it's a Green Lantern ring, but isn't Diggle also going to Metropolis? So who's to
Yep,
say it's
yep.
not a giant chunk of kryptonite?
Metallo.
Dig Tallow.
Dick Tal. Oh, Dick Tallow. This is the spin-off with Marcus and Chad. Dick Tallow. Um,
It's just us coming up with really inappropriate names for supervillains. Dick Tallow.
yeah, but one of the great things that come out of this whole thing was we got the Diggle family in full.
Yes.
Happy.
All four of
And
them, apparently.
yeah, and it was cool to see, how just deathly serious, his wife was about, Lila was about getting our son back because I mean she like look he put our family back together and obviously it never got brought up again that she was Harbinger, but we know how that all went down, so it was real cool to see just their dedication to the man at the end.
I'm curious to see how they pay off the kidnapping of the son because one, I don't think we as fans care. Oh no, William's gone. We say as we go back to doing whatever the fuck we were doing prior. Oh, William was kidnapped. Oh no, this is us being sad. And with the Superman spinoff, what was it called? Lois and Superman. Lois is better than Superman. Lois Lane and the Super Friends Fun Bunch Hour. I don't know. It's gonna be terrible. I'm curious to see if Diggle goes over to the Superman series. Do you want to see Diggle in the Superman series? Two, do you want to see the Oliver Sun payoff during the Superman series?
I think the Oliver Son payoff may come. Well, see, technically looking at it, he's going to be on our TV screens, having been kidnapped several times now because obviously Damien took him that one time, in which case I don't think he was aware of until obviously later because of how they set it up with his daughter. We seen him kidnapped in this finale, and anybody that watched Green Arrows and the Canaries know he got yanked there as a grown up. So I think that particular thing may pick up there, which I'm interested in seeing. Like I think they probably should pick up that series because they could be something more interesting. I'm actually more interested in watching that show than I am the Superman series because, and it's funny because I've heard several people calling this. I'm not really that interested in watching Cuck Superman.
Right, like Cuckle Man can
Like,
go do his thing. Like we're good.
like we not no nothing against the actors. We never have anything against these actors and actresses, but I don't really dig on her as Lois too high. We've seen how they've taken every opportunity to demean the Superman. He's got two sons. Whoop de doo. I almost feel like it might be a disservice having a actor the caliber of David Ramsey go over to their show. I prefer, since they want to merge everything now between the silver and the small screen, if you can keep an actor like David Ramsey on and just put him to the HBO series, I think that'll be a genius move.
Honestly, we talked 2 years ago about who would we want to see play Jon Stewart, and David Ramsey was always the name we wish we could do, but he was already attached to Diggle. They would never do that, but now they've pretty much opened the door for that idea of happening. There's a lot of character actors out there who could play a Hal Jordan pretty seamlessly, and David Ramsey has the right timbre, the right personality, the right frame, the right, obviously he's immensely talented as an actor, but he fits what you're looking for with a Jon Stewart, because a Jon Stewart is a very military type personality, and we already know that David Ramsey can play that because that's what Diggle was. So when I hear names like Common and Tyrese being attached to Jon Stewart, my soul regresses into the grounds of yesteryear because I'm like, God, no, that would be awful. But getting David Ramsey on as Jon Stewart, that would make me sign up for HBO Plus, Go, whatever it fucking is called. So, like, let's just, just fucking do it. Hell, you know what? Just fuck it full time. David Ramsey, Jon Stewart, Stephen Amell, Hal Jordan, just redo Arrow as Green Lanterns. Then you can bring in Colton
That's
Haynes
funny,
as Kyle Rayner.
hilarious. That would be great. I don't know if Stephen Amell wants to jump back into a full-on series full time. I mean, it's weird because he just anybody has I guess paid attention to I guess Arrow first ish news. He had a panic attack recently. Um, uh, Michael Rosenbaum's podcast. So
Did he realize that he wasn't going to have steady income ever again because he's a mediocre actor at best, and he just canceled his own show for no reason? Because that would stress me out too. We know that film career started and stalled pretty fast.
again, how I might as well. You know how hilarious that would have been if you would have been in the room and you pulled a Stewie, because in the interview he kind of just goes because he realizes he's having a panic attack as it's happening. He's like, "Wow, man, did it just get hot in here?" And then he tells Michael, you may need to leave. You might need to go get some air. And I could just see you sitting there, like, "Are you having a panic attack?" Like, I think I am. Are you? You think it's because you're a mediocre actor?
I would have flat out said, Steve, are you just now realizing that you ended your only source of income?
Oh.
Like, is this really what's happening? Did you not realize the issue with this? I think one of the cool things that's coming out of this now, I'm making light of Stephen Amell's situation, although I do hope he's okay, because I'm sure with his situation, he's got a young daughter who's 6 or 7 years old,
Yeah.
very impressionable years. You don't want him to suffer. You don't want him to struggle. And I'm hoping that he made bank with that Arrow show, because he might be in a place where he might never need to work again. And if that's the case, fantastic. That's what we're all striving for. Make money, retire young. But the interesting thing, he's also doing that movie with his cousin that I'm actually kind of interested to see. I think it's already out. Where there's mutants, but not Marvel, and Stephen Amell's trying to recruit these guys, and Robbie Amell is one of the guys that he's trying to recruit. I don't know. It seemed interesting, but I didn't hear much buzz about it after it's started to get screened. So who knows? But both the flagship shows of the CW Marcus, Arrow, and Supernatural, are ending this year. Arrow just had its last episode, and Supernatural will be wrapping up here in about 3 months. So
yes, it's the end of an era, man.
No, Supernatural is right there with Smallville.
Yeah.
And Seventh Heaven with their icon shows, like the shows that define a network, and with the fact that Supernatural outlasted Smallville. And the fact that Seventh Heaven is now a show that can never be released again in what's that when they're syndication, because the actor who played the father on that ended up being a giant fucking piece of shit sexual predator. It's now de facto Supernatural. That's the show. And much like Arrow, Supernatural's actors Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles both said, we've been doing this for 15 years. We're good. This is it.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, you got to imagine you would hope that a lot of these actors are wise, because again, it is a huge consistent commitment. But I would imagine as an actor in Hollywood, because this is such a fickle business, oftentimes with is passionate fan base that are as fickle as they can be passionate, that it's nice to know that you kind of, when you get into this CW of it all, specifically with these heroes, that you probably can rely on if you become a regular. You got something that you can rely on year after year, just because of the way the thing is set up now. Basically, the CW is really propped up by these shows now.
Mm-hmm.
But it can, again, like you said, it gets daunting after a while, because you're away from your families, specifically if you don't live in Vancouver, for an extended period of time. And a lot of people, it takes away an exorbitant amount of time. I mean, after Amell, because he came back after the whole panic attack on Rosenberg's thing, and he wanted to redo things, because that's just the kind of guy he is. He wanted to make sure he did things right, and he talked about it. I mean, he just kind of wants to be focus on his family and whatnot. And I mean, you can't blame him. I mean, he basically put the show on his back for however long, all these 8 years, and yeah, like you said, it probably could have went on, but with the storylines that they went through, I mean, we talked about it, ended of season 5 for us. So imagine how he might have felt from a creative perspective. Like, what a freak are we gonna go from here without literally just running on fumes, right? So. Um, Thankfully, I think a lot of those actors can continue, if not just come to Legends or something, can go over to maybe Green Arrows and the Canaries. But yeah, that is some irony that both Green Arrow and Supernatural are ending this year. Um, that's crazy because I saw a lot of people say Arrow changed the game, and it did, I think. But it like David Rams always say, it stands on the shoulders of a Smallville
Mm-hmm.
because as much crap people give that show, Smallville, unlike a lot of these shows that we're getting now, specifically certain seasons, Smallville is still very watchable from beginning to end.
Yeah, as long as you're able to, deal with the Chloe Sullivan of it all, Smallville is not a show that has aged poorly at all. Granted, if you watch, the first season, they talk about things like CD players. We get it. We're old. Get off our backs. Like Small came out in like what 2001. Christ.
Yeah,
It's been 19 years since the debut of Smallville. Ah, goddamn. Ah, my whole soul just ratcheted in agony. Jesus Christ. So it's going to be interesting to see how CW evolves from this, how the Arrowverse evolves from this. Because like they're throwing a lot of new shows against the wall in CW. You got Stargirl, you got the Canary show, which will I guess take place in the future. I guess you got the Lois and Superman show, and they're not done launching new shows for the CW. And I wouldn't be surprised if other shows kind of went by the wayside. Most of the actors on Arrow, though, either are going to be more than likely moving on, and because they've been there for a
yeah,
while, or some of them may be able to be placed in other shows. Because like the guy who played Curtis, he left the show because he's always in demand. So I wouldn't imagine that a lot of these guys are going to have a hard time finding work outside of the Arrowverse. So we'll see what happens with that. I am curious to see what happens. And well, most of the Arrowverse has me pretty much burnt out on these shows because Berlanti only has one fucking note. Relationship drama. I am very interested in Stargirl. I will be watching Stargirl. I don't have high hopes for Stargirl, but I'm going in with an open mind.
yeah,
But the minute we
yeah, and
get the minute we get one of those fucking episodes like we got in Legends of Tomorrow, I call them show killers.
it's so
Like the
killer.
Helena Troy. If we get one of those in
Oh my god.
Stargirl, I'm out. I'm Dunsky. I am not going to be sat, through a show where you're making fun of an entire gender of people because you think it's going to be easy views and clicks, and you get to rile up the girls, and they're all like girl boss and bis bosh and blah blah. No, I don't. I'm not going to watch a show that insults me just to make some people feel better. That's not how I roll.
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, look, I'm rooting for Girl, specifically because I know how much you love that character. Um, I'm interested in seeing how it turns out. It also helps that it is on a different universe, so it can't necessarily be uh, have to be affiliated. Like I said, I'm also interested in seeing if they go ahead and pick up Birds of Prey. I mean, not Birds of Prey, the Green Arrows and the Canaries, because I actually really like those three actresses. I think Katie Cassidy has done a really great job at rebounding from the absolute fumble that the show did with the OG Laurel. She's done a lot of building with that character, and I think it was a wink and a nod to everything that she brought with that character, that they did the whole thing about when she went to Lansing, was like everybody got brought back except the OG Laurel, right? And then he kind of gave it a nod like there's nothing wrong with you. You are our Laurel now, So that was a cool little thing. But yeah, I mean, look, they even capitalizing off of the momentum of whatever's left of the momentum of Riverdale and doing the whole Kathy King thing. Um,
God, that
so
show
that's
died fast, didn't it?
It's another show existing on specifically off its ships. I mean, I don't see how you can really get. I mean, the storyline is just so damn wacky. When they do uh try to focus on the more teen drama, high school of it all, because I think they are in their final year of high school. It it sometimes stick to land and sometimes don't. Like I said, I think they peaked with that Fred episode. And I think that's because they absolutely had to land that
Mm-hmm.
episode. I think they did a phenomenal job, but that's so few and far between when it's coming to that show now. But I think they moving the girl who played Josie over to Kathy King so she could get some more shine. So and again, CW reusing this actress, the chick that's the star Kathy King, that's actually playing Kathy King, played in you remember the show that For Life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so they got her back. So that's cool to see. They at least take care of the actors. If nothing else, CW takes care of the actors. They might not take care of them in terms of putting them in something of quality when it comes to creative direction for characters all the time, depending on who's behind the show. But they at least bring them back to make sure they got something to do as actors because it's a hard business.
You mentioned that, and there's a guy who I always end up seeing. I'm gonna look him up right now, actually, because he's literally been in like I was going to say 30 CW pilots, but that's not right at all. It's more like he's been a part of 3 franchises. Let me just see if I can find his name real fast. He was a villain in One Tree Hill for a few seasons, and then he got ported over to a show called Hellcats. His name is Matt Barr, and he was a part of Hellcats alongside Ali McCulka, Ashley Tisdale, Robbie Jones. All these. McCulka went on to be part of iZombie. Robbie Jones was also part of One Tree Hill. So the show lasts for 1 season. This marks Barr's second show, big part of a CW show. He then gets brought back again 2 or 3 years ago for a show on the CW about the military. Let me see if I can't find what it was called. And I actually watched it. It was actually rather enjoyable for being a CW drama. Um, why is this so difficult?
Oh, I
Work
think I know
faster
what you
phone.
was talking. I think when that show was coming out, you said you was something about seals.
Uh, Helicopter pilots. It's called Valor, and
There it is.
it was
Yeah, you was telling me about Valor.
yeah, it was part of the quote unquote. If we're gonna go WWF terms on this, it was part of the quote unquote new generation because it was Valor, Riverdale, and the show you watch with the football players. They all came out in the same block, and only one of
Gotcha.
those shows survives.
Yeah,
Well,
it's funny
two of
because
them.
I think one of the chicks that played in there also did that show on Sci-Fi with Alan Richardson about those that crazy car race. I forgot the Cycle Drive or something,
Oh
whatever it was.
yeah, we were gonna watch that. I never did. Was it any good?
It was okay. It was it was okay. Again, the premise got a little. I almost feel like it looked at Austin Powers and said, "Hold my bed times," just because of ridiculousness. But you kind of locked into Adam Richardson and that beautiful young lady by his side. But yeah,
Blood
it
Drive.
was cool. It sucks because I think Valor was probably one of their better shows.
Valor was fantastic. It had like a nice little espionage. Like it was really diving into some really heavy issues. One of the main characters is a black dude who I think was a Muslim, and he gets kidnapped essentially by a terrorist group during a mission. And his entire arc through the first season was how he was handling being a prisoner of war. And we got to see there's 13 episodes. In the last episode, he finally gets rescued and brought home, and it's this heartbreaking scene where his wife finally has her husband back and she wakes up and he's gone and she freaks and she's storming around the house looking for him and she goes into the garage and finds him on the floor sleeping because he had spent all months in captivity and that's where he slept was on the floor and that's the only place he could sleep and she curls up next to him and it's the most heartbreaking thing because I actually know people who've had to do that who feel so uncomfortable being in a bed and being in a home that they resort to doing bizarre things just to find comfort. And like that show was really having some heavy issues tackled and looked at. And it was a really well done show with, of course, really pretty people. With some scantily clad individuals and some salacious storytelling, but it got canceled because it didn't have the ratings. But CW is going to have to find a way to get beyond just doing superhero shows, because one of the things that during the golden age of CW, when it was going from WB to CW, they had Smallville, Gilmore Girls, they had Veronica Mars, Seventh Heaven was still wrapping up, Supernatural, and One Tree Hill. They had a pretty diverse lineup. Now anymore, it's girl power shows and superhero shows. Oh, and sometimes you'll have a supernatural show. Not just supernatural, but like Vampire Diaries. So like you went from having like a wider range of unique and popular shows to really pigeonholing yourself to a handful of ideas. And they've had some interesting ideas that maybe it didn't stick or stick as well as they hoped. Like Jane the Virgin was a telenovela. They had this one show, I forget what it's called. It's like, I'm Not Crazy or Crazy Ex-Girlfriend or whatever it was called, where it was basically a musical. So that was pretty cool. But like these shows, while daring and different, didn't catch on like, they were hoping for. And I think both of them ended up getting canceled this year. So hopefully the CW can get past just doing superhero stuff, because you can't build an entire network on it, especially when it's the same superhero content. If you had 12 superhero shows and they were all different, okay. Like if you and I were watching DC Universe and you had Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing, Titans, Harley Quinn, and whatever else, and that was your entire block of shows for the week, that'd be fine, because they're all vastly different. Doom Patrol is very unique and it's kind of quirky and funny. Titans is very melodramatic. Harley Quinn's a cartoon. Swamp Thing was a horror show, and they were all vastly different from one another. But the CW shows are all just different shades of the same suck at this point. So there's a lot of desire to see things get shaken up. It's not that there's an overabundance or we're not getting burnt out on superhero stuff. We're being burnt out on Greg Berlanti superhero stuff. We want different superhero stuff, because look at My Hero. My Hero is coming in during the decline or peak or whatever of the superhero craze, and it's the best thing going that we've seen probably since Arrow season 5 or Smallville. So clearly there's still room there in this world for more superhero content. It's got to be different than what Greg Berlanti is doing, because he always does the wrong things on the biggest of scales. Like Marcus, I think you'll agree with me. The biggest issue plaguing Arrow wasn't necessarily the villains, but who they chose to make the centerpiece of the show. They took a minor bit character who was supposed to be comedic relief, and they overwrote the predominant story arc that we all tuned in to see, which was going to be Stephen Amell's Oliver Queen and Laurel Lance. And we ended up getting Felicity, who ended up being the worst character I think I've ever seen written in television.
Yeah, and it sucks because she got played by really great actors. But Leia, you're right. You're 100% right. I mean, that's the anchor they decided to, or that's the thing they decided to anchor the show with. And when you go back and look at that season, and that's what really made that first hour with the cast talking about the show. That's what really just brought back so many feels. And specifically, one of the best parts about the actual finale is them taking it back to just when it was Oliver and Diggle down in the cave, and that back and forth and that chemistry, and then that great scene that we got, which was supposed to be put in the past, but clearly they shot it in the present. But still, I mean, that's the show we fell in love with. This guy going out, fighting against his better angels, sometimes giving in to his better angels, but that back and forth, that tug of war, but really being on this crusade and slowly letting somebody like Diggle in. And it was cool when we first got Felicity, because she was a nice piece to the puzzle, but then it kind of got it fell into the CW-ness of it all. And they could became obsessed with that. And of course, we know this fandom oftentimes cares more about ships than it does about continuity or in-depth plot. So they kind of anchored it with that, and yeah, a lot of times it was to his detriment. But um, yeah, it just it's weird. I feel like the relationships that paid off was the relationships more outside of it, like uh, Diggle and Lila, or hell, even Lance and Felicity's mom for a time. So
I think part of the problem with these shows is they become less about the story arc and more about the identity politics. And I've
yeah,
never been against the idea of, having a multitude of different types of people within your shows. That's a good thing. The problem that comes with it is fans will see a gay Muslim woman. And if they're a gay Muslim woman, they're going to self identify with that character to such a point that they can't see when the character is supposed to be an antagonist in a scene and will try to justify terrible behavior. And that becomes part of the problem with the fan base. It's not that you're writing a character specifically to be a good guy or a bad guy. It's that people will start making justifications for why so-and-so is doing the right thing just because so-and-so is of a certain arc, of a certain sect, of a certain gender. I cannot stand the Flash anymore because every time I see, it's not Candace Patton. She's the
no, you're
actress.
talking about Iris.
Iris, thank you.
Iris.
Every time I see
Yeah.
Iris, she's doing something that in a real relationship would make her toxic and abusive. But because she's representing a fan base, the fans will just rally around. No, she's right. She's not supposed to be, though. That's the entire point of the scene. It's causing conflict. And people can't detach anymore from that. And I think that's part of the problem. And it's not just Iris. I see people doing that with Barry. I saw people doing that with Oliver, with Supergirl. And it becomes this thing where it's more important to have your representation be right than to just enjoy the goddamn storyline. Now, granted, that's
Yeah.
hard enough as its own because it's a Greg Berlanti show, so that storyline's going to look like a goddamn roller coaster. But still.
Yeah, yeah, and sadly enough, this shines no better than on Batwoman because this show is a specific type of ass. But
Flat and unappealing.
Jesus, yes, like that.
It's a
'Cause
pizza box
I mean,
in someone's back pants, man. It's flat and square.
it is so hilarious because I'm literally ordering pizza as we speak. Um,
Nice.
but
Who? I'll come by.
close down, as close as Domino's, closer. Um,
I'll eat
we
some
need it
Domino's.
now.
I don't mind Domino's.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said with Batwoman, it's so focused on the gay. She has to be one of the worst superheroes. Like you know how I feel about Renee. I take Renee over
Oh
this chick.
no. Renee
It's
with his always looking up and his Renee has one look. His chin tucked and his eyes up. It's like, what are you doing? Do you want to make out with me or are you trying to threaten me? Because I'm confused.
I almost wish we had to watch it just so I could hear how badly you kill it.
Oh god.
But that's
Dude,
how
my
the
blood
show
pressure
is.
can't
But
handle that.
yeah, like my blood pressure can't tell you this. But yeah, the show is just so focused on like the gay of it all, and not even quality storytelling around that. It's just like this week, basically the villain, which is the only good part of the show, the actress that plays Alice. She basically told a character that even though me getting kidnapped, and me coming up with a completely different personality to deal with that trauma is one thing. You being in the closet is a specific type of hell that I couldn't even fathom. And I'm going to let you live in that instead of killing you. That's
Wait.
basically what she told him.
So being kidnapped and being messed with psychologically to the point where you split from reality essentially is somehow not as bad as being a closeted gay person in 2020. the stupid. Oh, that is so stupid.
It's incredible. But she also got hit on a motorcycle. Uh, she basically got T-boned by a van going at 50 miles an hour while she was also in motion.
Vans'
She was,
lives matter, Marcus.
yeah, fans' lives matter. Yeah, yeah. Of course, last week she also stopped a train by hooking, by shooting a hook to the train from the front end of her bike, and then having it anchored by from the bike, like close to the track or something. It was some of the worst. Like it made the logic on the Flash look sound. Shit was so bad. But
Trains are like
yeah,
200 tons. Like that
yeah.
that wouldn't even wait. It's
I
not
gotta
that
send
that
you the
wouldn't
clip.
work. It's not even that. It's that it wouldn't work so spectacularly bad that it would be distinguishable as to how bad an idea that is. Think about it. You could park a 4-ton vehicle in front of a train, and that train's going to reduce it to bits. And I'm supposed to believe that a motorcycle has the elastic density to stop a fucking 400-ton train. Who is riding that track? Oh, probably the same person that said, "Oh, that Batman suit, that's perfection. It will be when it fits a woman." Why isn't anyone watching this show? Jeez, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I don't know. I'm fucking flabbergasted. I think that's one of the reasons why Arrow
Yeah,
will always have a strong reputation for me. They brought representation. They had I don't know how often Jewish people are represented in media. I don't track these things. I'm not really that's not, no, I don't give a fuck. I grew up watching a lot of black TV shows. Like, I never really gave a shit. Like, Sister was my jam. Smart Guy, my jam. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, my jam. So, like, I don't care. But, you had a Jewish chick, a white dude, and a black dude as your core threesome. And the Arrow did everything right in the first few seasons because they wanted a black lead, but they didn't have any black characters that they thought could fit for this actor. So instead of just saying, "All right, we'll just make him Hal Jordan," they went, "How about we just make a new character?" And now John Diggle is such a great character from television that when he eventually gets ported over, and now granted he already has been ported over to the comics, but he's going to be a lot more focus centric going forward in the comics eventually. They're going to model him right after David Ramsey. Like that's how powerful of a performance he was on that show that he's going to make this minor character that I don't know if they made it for the show or if they cherry picked this random ass character and they brought him in. They're going to they redefined this character for the comic fans and that's what they should have done. Same thing with Felicity Smoke. So it's one of those things where they did everything right with creating new characters. So what did you just send me?
yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll talk about peace while you watch that. The literal ridiculousness, like even more so than the show. This is probably a clip. It
Batwoman
has such
stopping the
graphic.
train. What the Marcus, what did you send me?
I gotta send you a piece of the stupid, or just a piece.
Am I going to be angry about this?
You practically explained it before I even showed it to you.
Okay, so it's 4 train cars. So it's not 400 tons. It's probably about 40 tons. She stops her bike and puts down the kickstand, and that's enough to stop a train. What? Oh my god, this is some total bonkers bullshit. Oh, this is so dumb. Why did you do this to me, Marcus? I thought we were friends. Show's canceled. You're fired.
Well, since I'm all way headed out the door, might, might, might as well pull what that Spike employee did. He was on the Twitter.
That was the greatest I quit ever. Oh my god, I gotta find that again. That was fantastic. Uh, Rip to
That's great.
Arrow.
Yeah.
Fantastic show.
Did, did you have any more favorite parts? It was great seeing Nissa again. We hadn't seen her in ages.
From the series finale, not necessarily. What about you? Did you have anything else?
What else? No, yeah, I mean that was look, we got Tommy Merlin back. That was cool, and apparently him and Laura was married on his earth. That was interesting too. We got back Mora, and we got to see a different scene, I guess, which was an alternate scene from season 2 when I guess Oliver saved her from getting killed by Deathstroke.
I mean, yeah, that's cool. Oh, she would be dead. She would be so. She just what? Wait, what? What?
You see them?
Ah. And of course they're the bad guys, just randomly showing up. Oh my god, this is fuck this show. Like if she was in her bad armor, you could be like, well, she's got bad armor on. Okay, that's fair. I can accept that logic. She's wearing a leather jacket and a fucking $35 bike helmet. Like she would be dead.
And even worse, she wasn't knocked out until he kicked her in the helmet.
Trash. That's fucking trash. All right. If you send me another goddamn video of this,
No, I'm
show,
done.
I'm coming for you.
I'm done. My career's hanging on by a thread, Nerd Corp.
Marcus, I'm coming for you, and you know what that means? I'm taking the goddamn pizza with me.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I'm just gonna show up, knock on the door, and be like, Chad, what are you doing here? I grab the pizza. It's mine now. Just walk away.
Oh, but yeah, like you said, man, RIP to Arrow. It was a hell of a run. You know, at least they got to end on their own terms. You know, everybody pretty much got a happy ending. And,
Fans.
you know, it's like Tony said, part of the journey is the end, and maybe we'll get a continuance of it in Green Arrow and Canaries, but hopefully something of high quality, because I do like those young actors, and it's nice to see them not have to play the exact duplicates from the 2040 timeline from season 7, was that?
Yeah, that was terrible.
Because those personalities were just horrible. So at least they just do something else. But they, like you said, they need to go back to diversifying their content because they have absolutely propped themselves up with this Berlanti of it all when they need more shows, like you said, like Valor, like the Jane of Virgins, like more All Americans. Because I mean, it's just it shows a high quality of storytelling. Like you said, as many good moments as they had, Berlanti stuff of it all has not been the best. And I know a lot of people will kind of ignore that because, like you said, they're agenda driven and they love their ships. They'll take their ships, like I said, over continuity and quality. But that's not enough when shows like The Boys, The Boys and stuff are out. So and stuff like Mandalorian. So yeah, you got to.
Yeah, The Boys is one of those shows that kind of wrecks anyone's preconceived notions on what can and can't work. The Boys is fantastic because it's based off of the comic, but it's different enough to stand on its own and be its own thing. And the acting is fantastic, but the best part is most of those actors are getting their big breaks. Like you don't need to rely on big names. Carl Urban aside, he's fantastic in everything. So, you know, you really can't justify having these one-dimensional shows anymore. You have to start doing things where you're challenging the audience's expectations and giving them different things to appreciate. I'm not talking about subverting expectations because that's a hacked way of saying we're going to under-deliver on what you're expecting, but you're going to just take it. I mean, do something radically different. And don't be afraid to do it, you know? And I think that'd be fine. I don't think there's a problem with that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. And hell, even it's funny enough because even though it's under the umbrella of Berlanti even Black Lightning, to me, is probably their best Arrowverse show because they don't let those creators, Salil Akeem, and the people behind that show, don't allow the Berlanti wackiness of it all to come into the show. They very much keep the show speaking to the Black experience and within the realm of what happens when that meets, the superness of it all, and they keep it grounded. It kind of reminds me a lot of times watching like a more realized version of Static,
Mm-hmm.
which is funny because I think the Death Battle guys just dropped a fight between Static and Miles Morales, Spider-Man. So.
And if any one of us knows anything about the Black experience, it's this cracker.
That got to be the quote. That got to be the line of the year.
Thank you. They're in their third season at Black Lightning, correct?
Correct.
Well, this is the season where shows go awry. So we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Like season 3 of Flash, what do we get? We get Remnant Berry.
Speaking of pizza, we get Pizza Face.
And then on season 3 of Arrow, we got the what the fuck was that season finale of Arrow? Here's the thing. I want to be very clear. I liked Matt Nable as Ra's al Ghul. I liked the mid-season finale of Arrow season 3. That may have been their best mid-season finale they ever did. Fucking Oliver Queen dies,
Yeah.
But season 3 was of the first 5 seasons, that's the weakest. But even though season 4 is the second weakest, I don't consider it a bad season. I don't consider 3 a bad season. I don't think 3 worked like they wanted it to. They tried to do two different. They made Oliver try to be like, oh, I have to betray everything I believe in because Roz. Everyone's like, that's dumb. And we're all sitting here going, that's dumb. So the causality wasn't really there. But season 4, I thought, was actually really good. I just don't think it was as good as 1, 2, or 5. But 4 is goddamn Jesus and the Technicolor Dreamcoat compared to 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because 4, it fell into reliance so much on Neil McDonough's charm as that character that it almost stopped caring for anything around him plot wise in terms of his direction as a villain to actually make sense. We're still sitting here asking each other what the freak was up with the Nazi corn.
Right? Don't care because we got Neil McDonough and he's fantastic.
Exactly. And all his dialogue and great. Like he was cool on there, but he was immaculate on that. But that's because his wackiness fit with that show. Whereas Arrow is like magic did not blend well with that show, specifically when what we had got from the previous 3 seasons, where even if the direction wasn't the best in season 3, it was still grounded in that grit and that action. When you got this guy coming in against people who shoot whole, real tangible things, and he's literally waving people out of his way. It's very hard to counteract that with something believable. You got Oliver going to get some type of good magic, and it gets up to the point where his eyes glow a certain color and his goodness can stop him, and it just got wacky.
It did, but it gave us eventually the season 3 or season 2 of Legends, where Neil McDonough is destroying the entire 1920s UK hoity-toity scene to the tune of Return of the Mac. That show may be ass, and it may be like the straw that the ass sucks all the nonsense through, but that show existing in its disgustingness for as long as it has did give us one great moment. Neil McDonough throttling 1920s English subculture to one of the greatest hip-hop songs of the 90s.
Yeah, and it consistently gives us Mick Warren, which how can you hate that guy? Like freaking Hawks fly off. Thank God, don't ever come back. Hawks fly off. Makes me want chicken.
Makes me want chicken. I will say this, with all things being even, there's a lot of characters that benefited greatly from being part of the Arrowverse because they can now be reimagined in comic form without being too much pushback. I think one of the characters that has failed to really pop like they should have is Killer Frost. I think they tried to make her into too much of a hero, and I don't think it's working the way they wanted it to. They were trying to go for that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Hulk, Bruce Banner thing, but now it kind of just seems like, a 12-year-old wrote it. Now they're best friends. Like, that's dumb. That's so dumb. Do you want to hear something else that's dumb, Marcus?
What?
The CW is ordering a reboot of the acclaimed 1970s and early 80s television icon show Kung Fu, but with a girl. Because literally, if you reboot anything in Hollywood in 2020, and 2015 and 2022, it's always, let's reboot this, but with a girl. That's going to work well. This new version of the series will follow a young Chinese-American woman who drops out of college and travels to an island monastery in China. When she returns home, however, she discovers that her hometown has become riddled with crime and corruption. Using her newly developed martial arts skills and Shaolin values, she sets out to protect her community and bring law back to the streets as she hunts down the assassin who killed her Shaolin mentor. Fuck this show.
Holy hell. We just got through talking about Neil McDonough. You know what this reminds me of?
So many things.
Who was he the villain to in a certain certain movie about a young lady who followed the kung fu arts?
Oh no! They're remaking Chun-Li. If we get what's his face's Vega in this show, I'm on board. Let's do it.
I knew he'd get it. I just had to give him time.
Fucking A, man. Fucking A. All right, so it continues on to say, aside from Kung Fu, the CW also ordered a pilot for the Republic of Sarah, which follows a young girl who successfully gets her two to sex. What is this sentence? Which follows a young girl who successfully gets her two to succeed from the United States. Her two what? Recently, the network aired its backdoor pilot for the Green Arrow and the Canaries during the Arrow final season and placed series orders for Superman and Lois. Walker, a Texas reboot starring Jared Padalecki. And, what? Yeah, that's actually a big one. Sam from Supernatural is going to be starring as a new Walker Texas Ranger.
Wow, that's interesting.
If Dean doesn't end up, did Walker have a sidekick? No, I'm thinking of what's the one with Cheech Marin? Not Cheech. No, I'm right.
You talking about Nash Bridges?
Yeah, we need to get a Nash Bridges spinoff, or just have Sam and Dean play Nash Bridges and Walker in the same show. Combine the universe.
No, it's fun. I mean, obviously that can work. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm so attached. Like I still watch Walker. Like it's. You have no idea how happy I was when I saw that episode that had Sting in it. I was like, I couldn't get you that clip fast enough. I was like, freaking Sting did the Scorpion death drop. But yeah, I mean, man, that's interesting. I literally just found out about that. But yeah, the Nash Bridges thing would be good. I mean, hell, they could. This is a throwback. They could reboot Pacific Blue.
Oh, that's a great idea. Pacific Blue would be the perfect show to reboot in a modern era, but just go whole hardcore to the tight shorts and the white t-shirts. Like more of that, less of the bike riding.
So good. Yeah, because we really don't need that. Yeah, because I guess we got enough of that in that movie. What was that movie with the dude that played Don John?
Oh yeah, special delivery or 30-second delivery, or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Love Danya Ramirez in that though. Um,
I
but
mean,
yeah, man, that's wow. Okay, and that's this for the CW. They doing this for?
yep. So we got two
Wow.
reboots, two spinoffs, and a show where a woman successfully succeeds from the United States with her two. I don't know. This is fucking weird. Speaking of fucking weird, first Birds of Prey reaction celebrate a wild action fest in the Harley Quinn spirit. So the one thing that I realize about all these reviews, to be clear, politically leaning, I'm in the blue camp. But everyone who's reviewing this film is either a chick, and we all know about gender bias, it's real, or a Democrat. So I don't really trust the reviews for this fucking movie. Because the one thing I've realized in my sharpened age, my old age of 33, it's that anyone who deals in political ideologies as their identity cannot be trusted, left or right or center. So I don't trust these reviews, Marcus. It's almost like movie reviewers don't review films the way people are used to
Yeah,
engaging in them.
it's so it's fun. Like we talk about it. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but we really emphasize it. Like you really just have to go see this stuff for yourself because it is so annoying going through these reactions and they to read people like type out basically a review in sound bites
Mm-hmm.
and like talk just the weird way like you have to read some of these reviews to look at just how these people just are so boxed in and how they word these reviews. Obviously, you can't go into detail, and maybe that's a lot of the reason why they talk the way they do about these films. So broad, specific, but it's so consistent with every film. It feels like this is the new something such, and this is the direction DC's going. Something bombastic, something uh, creative in a new way. It's always the same jargon, but yeah, with this, I just got to see this for myself. I can't believe any of this stuff because it's either one of them things where this is going to be a great movie with crap trailers, or exactly what the crap trailers were prepping me for.
All of these reviews do say one thing, and I'm not actually going to refute it because the one thing that you can always say about a film that is definitive is the fight scenes are either good or bad. And that just
Yeah,
boils it down. And all of these reviews are saying that the fight scenes are fantastic. And
yeah,
if that's all this film is, and if that's all this film is trying to be, then the film might be really good.
yeah,
Because not every film is made for the same reason. You don't make Endgame for the same reason you make Birds of Prey.
yeah,
So I think of a perfect kind of modern encapsulation of that is Dread. Dread was not a film with a storyline. It did not have a plot. It was very simple. Two cops go in, two cops come out, and the bodies come with them. Like that's the tagline, or it should have been. There was one minor story arc in that entire thing, and that was Anderson trying to prove that she was good enough to be a cop. The rest of the film is pretty rudimentary. They're trying to stop the bad guys. It's not a complicated plot, but the film had great action, fantastic style, and even though it wasn't steeped in heavy, elements of plot, it had fantastic acting. I mean, so even though I don't trust these reviews, I don't think that these reviews are necessarily wrong. I just don't think they're necessarily right. I think we should all look at life like Schrodinger's cat. It's both alive and dead until you open the goddamn box. And in this case, opening the goddamn box is going to go see the film yourself. You don't have to like the film. You also don't have to hate it.
yeah,
There is no narrative that we're trying to push. And that's the problem that I have with so many reviewers is that they do have a narrative. Anytime that there's a female director or a heavily governed female grouping or a heavily LGBTQ, there's always the desire to have it succeed because there's always people who don't want it to. And I don't agree with the idea that people should be rooting against films that are heavily women or heavily LGBT or heavily black or whatever, or heavily
Yeah.
white. I don't care about that. My problem is when you try to overcorrect. Because when you try to overcorrect, that's where I think things kind of take a turn for the worse. You know, you think about a movie like what was that Jordan Peele movie? Us?
Yeah, yeah, Us.
I thought it was very creepy, very
Yeah.
unique. But I saw so many people freaking out that it wasn't nominated for an Oscar, and I'm like, it wasn't that good. It was fine. It was certainly unique, but it wasn't necessarily really all that impressive. In fact, everyone who saw the film Parasite, which I think was like a Korean film, was like, this is what Us should have been. But the idea that people would speak, illy against Jordan Peele like that, that's deplorable. You can't do that, so they overcorrect. Saying Black Panther is nothing more than just an Iron Man, Captain America, rudimentary paint by numbers, intro film. Well, how could you say that? That's so offensive, but it's true. You don't need to overcorrect, because when you overcorrect, you lose a sense of objectivity, and that's where things kind of go sideways. So I see a film like Birds of Prey, and I see a lot of people, in my opinion, overcorrecting. And I don't know why. I might see this film and be like, holy shit, I love it. But there's already a big gleaming issue that I have with this film. That's Margot Robbie. I don't like her. I don't find her that engaging. I don't think she's that charismatic. That doesn't mean that if someone does, that it's a bad thing. If you go to a give me a modern pop star, Lilo, what's her name?
Lizzo.
Lizzo. If you go to a Lizzo concert and you like Lizzo, and Lizzo puts on a hell of a performance, then you got what you went for. If you go to a Lizzo concert expecting to hear Metallica, you're going to be pretty pissed off.
Yeah, you're right, and I think it really speaks to the foundation of your point, where you really have to kind of really with everything in life, you got to kind of take a step back and take things as they are. Like, we talk about, Harley Quinn, whether it's, when I say the trailers, not that the trailers suck, I just didn't click with them, right? Yeah.
The trailers were very much about Harley Quinn when we were sold on the idea that it was a Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn film. We were kind of lied to, in a sense. And then they try to make this dumb title and the fabulous emancipation of Harley. It's why?
The fabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn, which is weird because you usually know when you see a advertisement for the film and they do the promo, the voiceover will usually say the entirety of the film, but the voice dude just say Birds of Prey.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like and that is a mouthful. But yeah, like I said, I think like you said, feels like we lied to them. Maybe they're waiting for the film to kind of give us the rest of the crew. And my initial thing about this film was like, look, I liked Margot. I like Margot. I think she's one of the better actresses that we get to see today, just because of her commitment to whatever role she's doing. And I liked her. Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad, and very interested in seeing what she does with this film. And I've yet to see a bad review specifically when it comes to her. But this might be one of those cases where it actually is a good movie. It just might not click with us. We could rattle off a lot of movies like that. But again, to the foundation of your point, it could be one of those situations of a movie that kind of gets tanked by a lot of people because it is being, it's an all-female thing, and the female empowerment. I think a lot of that has to do with we've seen so many shitty iterations of that concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's so shoved down our throats and it's come off so poorly preachy that a lot of people just, anytime they see it now, it's too much. They're overdoing it. They throw the baby out with the bathwater in every situation now, and that's not good. And I know it's hard because, again, we see these agendas being pushed a lot of times by these big celebrities because everybody has to be on the bandwagon. But you kind of got to take everything on its own foothold. I don't like the narrative that's being pushed like DC is just getting it together with this film.
DC's been doing this for 50 years. Marvel, welcome to the party. You're late. I will say this. This one review by Scott Mendelson really has my interest piqued because The only reason, I mean, all right, listen, I don't really have a type, but I definitely do have types. And the woman who plays Black Canary hits a lot of my types. I may be more of a fan of the more traditional looking Black Canary as a character, but this woman, I don't know her name. I'm very much more a fan of her than anything right now.
Yeah. Journey Smollett. Yeah, she. It's so funny over the years how you go back through these shows, and me and Chad are very much griping over the same black women. Um,
Not even just the same black women, man. Like anytime Indian, blonde, redhead, Chinese, like it's like whenever Mark's like, "Oh yeah, me too." It's like, motherfucker, find your own.
off. Like, Chad's like, you either get to keep the damn pizza or the girl. You don't get both.
I mean, listen, I'm not saying that we should trade women for pizza, but like, I'm willing to give up some drafts picks, if you will, for half the pizza. We can come to a compromise. But one of the reasons that I was interested in this movie, besides Miss Smollett, who is just she's prettier than a pizza, and that says something because I think pizza's pretty dang goddamn pretty. But the other reason I was really interested in this, and this is because I've seen this woman a lot. I love her work, and I've been watching her since 2005, maybe even earlier. I can't remember any of her earlier works, but that's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Ever since I saw her as the villain in Sky High, spoiler alert, I was like, she's awesome. Every movie, every TV show she's in, I make a concerted effort to watch because, and let's be real. You know, we can be real on this show. A lot of times when we follow certain personalities, be it actresses, models, singers, whatever, it's because they're sexy. We like looking at them. We like hearing them. We like engaging in their world and pretending maybe they'll notice us one day and love us the way that we've never loved ourselves. But with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, while she's all kinds of the sexy, she's also someone that I think is just genuinely good. Like, she's a great actress, a great personality. She knows how to hammer home in a lot of different roles. And this review really has me piqued because it references to a show that I thought was really good that got canceled too early. Quote, everyone is having a blast, but Mary Elizabeth Winstead plays Huntress, like a supporting character from The Tick. And if you've seen The Ticks, the series is, you know exactly what that is.
I didn't know how to take that, and I literally my face did this weird thing when I said, like, I literally backed off from my laptop. I was like, that's okay, that's something else. Which is, again, at least in the midst of all those things, that's a different review.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's specific without being specific. And again, even though the show was canceled, we encourage you to go back and watch The Tick.
Oh, it was good.
If for no other reason, you need to cleanse. Specifically, if you're a CW verse fan, you need to have your palate cleansed by something different. And Tick is a good different.
Very.
Just kind of give. Yeah, it's a good different. And we need that because I think that's why The Boys is working so well. It's such a staunch different from everything we get both cinematically and on the small screen. But yeah, Elizabeth Winstead, I'd have to get more familiar with her. I've probably seen her a million times and probably didn't even know.
Well, you've seen Sky.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got a good. Yeah. Like
she was between
that and probably.
Yeah, she was the student president turned villain.
Student president turned.
She was the one that Will
okay.
was crushing on, and like when he got his powers finally, everyone's like, he's strong, and she's like, he's super strong.
Yeah, she's Royal Pain.
Yep.
Oh God, okay, Roy. I'm even more invested now. I mean, yeah, they got Rosie Perez. I mean, come on, man. Like, every time, I mean, look, there's a lot of reasons to watch White Men Can't Jump, and she's one of them.
I was just about to say, I haven't seen her in 25 years since she left the basketball court and left Woody Harrelson holding his junk. I still love the ending of that goddamn movie. Wesley Snipes is like, you what? You can't jump. And then he fucking dunks the ball, and Wesley Snipes is like, shit, I'm kind of racist, aren't I?
Can you come out and play? You gotta love that movie, man.
I want to see.
Yeah, they got a great. Yeah. Did they ever do it? No, don't do a sequel or reboot to that film. I'm gonna ruin it. Jesus.
No, just bring back Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes in a 90-minute movie where they're just playing a game of one-on-one, talking about how they still how Woody Harrelson can dunk, but now Wesley Snipes can't because his
Because
back's all fucked up.
it's he goes up and he goes up and at the top of the rim it's an IRS agent. But yeah, I mean, because I just saw something that said I guess Lethal Weapon's trying to come back.
All right, listen.
Like I feel like
Mel Gibson might
I don't
be a
know.
raging homophobic racist, but I will show up for day one tickets for a Lethal Weapon 5 if they get Danny Glover, Mel Gibson, and goddamn Joe Pesci back for one more run. I don't care if their combined age is 342. I need that in the worst way, Marcus.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know what, that might actually work. Look, to me, the top movie of the year so far is Bad Boys 3. Movie is phenomenal to me. Um, and it's phenomenal that not only are a lot of those actors were still living to come back, but they basically got everybody from the franchise to come back. So I have no doubt that they could do that with Lethal Weapon 4, though it would be really funny just to see what realm they would put that in, because I've not been a Lethal Weapon fan, but I've heard things. So it'll be interesting to see that. I just don't want to set a precedent. Like, let's bring all these old dogs back to see if they can do some new tricks.
Well, have you seen the Lethal Weapon films?
I've seen one and two like once, but I was real young.
I think 3 may have been their best, and I think 4 brought in Chris Rock.
Hmm.
And Chris Rock was like the new hotshot detective, but he was dating. I think Murtaugh was Danny Glover's character, and he was dating Danny Glover's daughter, but he didn't know it throughout the entirety of the film. So there's this big scene where
Yeah.
Joe Pesci, who's like a crook, but they use him as an informant, and they have him go in to talk to like a dentist who's like running like a scheme on the side, and like everyone gets like super knocked up on laugh gas because it's the dentist's office, and they're all talking about like just laughing about things. And Chris Rock's and like, yeah, and I'm doing your daughter, and they're all laughing. And then Danny Glover knocks him out. It's one of the
Um,
best fucking scenes in the goddamn film. Oh, like I'm all on board with that. Like it doesn't work for everything, but for that, yes, please.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that could work. It's just, Hollywood a lot of times is like WWE. Once they find look at something that works, they're running into the damn ground.
Right?
It will run it. It will run it into the ground.
How many John Wick clones
Um,
do we have? Like 20? We got another one coming out with Ryan Reynolds' wife. What's her name?
um, not Olivia Munn.
No, not my
Shoot.
wife.
Is it Blake Lively? Blake
Blake
Lively, right?
Lively. It's called like the rhythm section.
Oh
It's
wow.
not exactly a John Wick clone, but it's like enough that you could
It,
see it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny you bring up John Wick and going back to your point about us, and this is I think the point I had lost track of. A lot of times people will look at something like us and view like a great performance in it as like the entire movie being good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not like when you talk about Oscar, like you might have had an Oscar worthy performance in it, but that don't mean it was an Oscar type of deal like movie, like because that movie is kind of it's wacky, and not necessarily all in, um, and you talk about John Wick, the fighting is phenomenal,
Mm-hmm.
and if, I don't know how much that plot is still holding up though,
Well, the first one
because
holds up pretty well because
yeah,
he gets he killed his dog and like listen
yeah, it's
that's
that's the introduction.
right.
Yeah, that's the introduction.
It's like Dread. That's the entire plot, and that's all it needs to be though.
Yeah, no, the first two are good, but like this third one, it kind of felt like everything kind of just went in a big circle, and you don't really know why. But the fighting was so damn good. Most of the people who enjoyed it just excused it,
Yeah.
and that's I think that's what we're talking about. Like you kind of have to take things as they are. Like we see a lot of movies with okay plots with great performances. A lot of movies have to rely on great actors to overact to overcompensate for like a lackluster plot. So, but I think a lot of times because again, we just want something to get behind. A lot of people want something to get behind. They be like, "Oh my God," like you know, like what if like the great thing about a movie like Life, the plot and the acting was good.
I just love that like, Marcus's go-to like perfect kind of collision of everything is life. And it's endearing. It's not that the movie's bad or good. It's endearing that that's Marcus's safe space for a movie because I got those too.
Yeah, it's funny, and I always try to reference a movie that we both know and or love. And it's funny because I was watching a long form interview with Michael Jai White today. And do you remember the guy? Because I don't, but when he said it, I was like, wow. Do you remember the guy that was chasing the two of them in the beginning? He was some type of mob boss or something,
In
some type of
life,
thug that was yeah. I guess
vaguely,
this was when they was running the liquor,
vaguely.
and he was supposed to the boss. Apparently, that guy was played by Rick James.
Wait. Rick James, like, fuck your
Rick
couch, Rick
James.
James.
Yeah, the Rick James bitch. That Rick James.
I gotta go back and watch Life now.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what I said. He's supposed to be this light skinned guy with some some jail back hair or something. He was like, that was played by Rick James, and he stopped the interview. He was like, no freaking way. And then he pulled up a clip. He was like, it's goddamn Rick James.
I'm googling this right now.
God.
Oh my god,
Spanky Johnson. Oh
that's
man.
funny as hell. He kind of looks like who played the first War Machine? What's his name?
Yeah, I knew you was Terrence freaking Howard.
Yeah, he looks like Terrence Howard. That's funny as hell,
Oh man.
man. That is fucking funny as hell. So let's shift gears and talk about something that isn't very funny, and that's this season of My Hero Academia. This season has been fantastic, and I had genuine concerns, not because the show has been waning, but because the show was so good in season 3 that I didn't know how you could even come back to it because they literally had the end of All Might, the end of One for All. You know, what's the next step? Like, how do you keep coming out with new great villains? Oh, but they did it again. But this season has been about rescuing a young girl. I think her name is Ari.
Yeah. Yeah, Airy. Yeah.
Ari. And we got the introduction of easily the best non-Deku character in Lemillion. He's amazing. We actually got him at the end of last season, but he's so charming and so fun, and he's that good-hearted, good-natured, kind of like goof troop character. Like all he wants to do is the right thing all the time, and I find it so endearing. But we got just the most amazing couple of episodes where all of the heroes won, but not without great consequences. You know, what's Lemillion's buddy's name? The guy who eats things.
Oh, I think his actual name his hero name is Sun Eater.
Yeah, Sun Eater. So he can take on any characteristics of any animal that he eats. And he ends up taking on these villains, and like, he goes one for all on these asses, and it's fantastic. But he's jacked up to shit. But then we have the episode where Fat Gum and Kirishima fight this dude who just basically can't be stopped, and they end up beating him, especially because Kirishima's hardening like really saves the day, and Fat Gum gets wrecked in the process, and he ends up. Fat Gum goes from being this really weird, amorphous kind of blob hero to being like this handsome, hot blonde dude, and you're like, wait, what? So when he gets beat up, his and uses his strength, his fat reduces until he looks sexy. Well, that's a hell of a technique. Can I learn that? I could eat 40 pizzas in a row and then look like a god after. Ah!
Yeah, it's funny because it reminds me of the Pokemon move Bide, where you basically just like take hits for 2 turns and you return the energy at twofold or something like that. That's basically because he basically was fighting this dude. With these machine gun punches, not on the level of All Might, but this dude was not playing. I actually like that guy a lot, because he doesn't give a damn. He just wants to fight.
The villain or Fat Gum?
No, the villain.
Yeah, the villain was tight. I called him Japanese Bane.
Hilarious.
He was basically Japanese Bane.
Basically, I mean, pretty much, yeah. Oh, how funny it would have been if he would have had a voice. But gotta love it because me and Chad watch it in dub. We'll take sub, but we obviously prefer the dub.
Well, no, you bite your tongue. I will not take sub. I am not reading a goddamn book. It's dub or get the fuck out of here. And anyone who says you could like dub or you could like fuck you, you're wrong. It's dub only and get the hell out.
Like pineapples on pizza and subbed. I will not have it.
No, you might as well tell me you're a KKK communist at that point. You can get the hell out of here is what you can do.
Hilarious. Looks at Chad. I too am a Nazi fucker. Yeah.
I'm a Nazi. I eat pineapple on pizza. I'm gonna hang with the Nazi actually. You need to get the hell out of your pineapple on pizza guy. You got some issues with me, man. Nazi, I don't like you either, but lesser of two evils in this case. And then you got the guy, I like the sub, and then we all just look at him. The Nazi's like, even I'm not that fucked up.
He's like, I only watch it in sub, and then we just all turn around with our pizza knives go, unless you want to get further watched, you best get out of here.
We're spinning the little wheel. For the slice. And we just slice them. But they're like pizza cutters, so like nothing really happens. And like after we slice them, he's like, wait, what? Why'd you guys do that?
A bunch of unsuccessful paper cuts. Oh man. But yeah, I mean, like you say, you coming to this season off of losing All Might. It was a blow. I thought it was a great thing to do because what it did was force them into a corner where they could be really creative, because now you had to up the heroes and the villains, because I think All Might being there, even in, not being in his prime, even in his weakened form, he created such a comfort zone for both sides because the heroes wasn't doing as much as they could because they knew somewhere he'd always be there. And the villains really wasn't living up necessarily to their potential too, because again, it's like, how much can I do before All Might shows up and basically one punch mans it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you take him out of the equation and you got Endeavor. We freaking finally seeing Endeavor hopefully stepping up. You got all these heroes. I mean, we basically just got the equivalent of Sandman in an episode. Gran Torino stepping up. Yeah. RP that. Literally, it was in and out. He basically got Pokeball to there. But yeah, he basically got caught. He basically got caught. But yeah, it forced everybody to step up and it forced the team behind this show to really put a focus on our core group and making them step up. Like the direction and the evolution of Kirishima has been brilliant this
Mm-hmm.
season. He got like feels like almost two focus episodes. Um, that was great. The
He really
Lemillion
bumped
stuff.
up from season one when you think about it. Like he was barely a bit player in the background in season one,
Yeah,
to now arguably being one of the four focused characters of the class with him, Bakugo, Deku, and Icy Hot, whose name escapes me.
yeah, Todoroki.
Todoroki.
Nice, yeah, Todoroki. But yeah, I mean, it's so good. Like you said, Lemillion adding Lemillion Sun Eater, the girl with the twirly electricity. Uh, you got freaking the chick that can turn into like the dragon snake thing. That's
Yeah,
that's really
she was
cool.
in season two, if I remember correctly. She was the mentor for wasn't she the mentor for Yayarosa and what's her face?
Yeah, Yazarosa and I forgot the other girl's name.
With the
Well, you talking about the
plugs.
Mike chick?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
the
plug chick. I
earplugs chick.
forget her name, but her. And yeah, I mean, it's just been great. Like I said, it's forced them to step up in a way. And I think a lot of people pissed off about Bakugo and Todoroki, but it meant so much more for the show evolution of Kirishima because they're always constantly doubting themselves, whereas Todoroki and Bakugo have a certain level of confidence because they practically mastered their power sets, whereas Deku was constantly having to grow. Kirishima had so much doubt that we got to see, and he had to, evolve in his power moves, whereas Bakugo and Todoroki don't have that far to go in terms of upping it in terms of power, but they got to find different ways in terms of personality to, I guess, kind of match that specifically with Bakugo now having his feud with Deku not as in the forefront as it was. Like he was damn near on Vegeta territory, and now it's a respect level in a different way because he knows the full story now. And Todoroki obviously had daddy issues who wouldn't after what he went through, and meeting that tornado dude I think put things in perspective is also because he literally just like, oh no, you're just your dad with half a burnt face. So that
I
was
think and the way they set up is brilliant because technically, when you think about it, Bakugo and Todoroki can't literally do anything. They failed. They're in their remedial summer classes, so like they can't even be part of these adventures because they dumb. They the big dumb. And I thought that's like when they originally did it, I thought like, well, what's the point? But now after seeing how much effort and time they gave to all these other characters, you realize why they had to take two of the more prominent personalities out of the show for a little while, so you can work on these characters without really worrying too much about what happens next. And according to the preview for this upcoming Saturday's episode, they're going to be back in a big way. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. The one thing that I think is really impressive is we hadn't seen any real deaths among the heroes since the show began that I'm aware of. Like maybe like a minor one, but like it really didn't resonate. But this time around, we got the death of Night Eye. And truthfully, I thought he was going to be fine because when he got impaled and like literally his entire chest was gone, I was like, oh, he's so dead. How you can't survive that. But then he's talking, and I'm like, oh, I guess he will survive that then? Because like he legitimately shouldn't have been able to talk, let alone, survive an entire night. So I was genuinely surprised that they did that. And I loved how they went about, in Night Eye's death, he saw for the first time in his entire life that his futures that he could see were not guaranteed. And it was all because of Deku's, enormity and his ability to fight beyond the norm. And like that was such a beautiful thing. Like, but it also kind of made me think that maybe Night Eye's entire life was a lie. And that made it even more depressing again. So like it was a very complicated way to go. What did you feel about Night Eye's death? Did you feel like it was the right thing to do to kill him off? Because he was a pretty big part of this, the first half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I loved it. As sad as I mean, look, I was kind of, be honest, I was kind of salty about Night Eye just because of honestly, the salt he was giving Deku. Like he acknowledged his skill specifically in that scene where he had to prove himself to him in that room. And he was like, did he really just do all that and not touch not one damn All Might poster in here? Um, which took a certain level of skill. Like I feel like a lot of times it's easy for people to kind of diss Deku because they just feel like it's all his power and his ability to think on his feet, which to me is unmatched by a lot of protagonists in anime. Um, is just crazy. But when you look at it, it's just like because we never got a lot with Mirio outside of a lot this season, because obviously, like you said, we got introduced to him last season. When you got that scene when he was in the bed, he was like, "Look, man," and he didn't even say this to him; it was internal monologue. He was like, "When I first found Mirio, I just wanted him to be a vessel for All Might," and he basically fell in love with the kid.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that transformation and just to kind of see because that last scene with Night Owl really just put his whole personality and his viewpoint into perspective. Like, um, again, he's just one of these few people that was just such a fan of All Might. Really, everything he did was to make sure, in a way, he could still live on, even though he saw that he wouldn't. Which is weird. Like, and then basically, in a way, have his mindset changed by both Mirio and then Deku. It was a beautiful thing, and for him to basically, you know, uh, have some nice part and peace words with not only All Might but Deku and Mirio all at the same time. I mean, I just thought it was beautiful, and I think it again coming off of our childhood with DBZ. Uh, it wasn't always the biggest of stakes with everything because, like we got with Arrow with those damn Lazarus pits, we always knew we had the Dragon Balls, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are no Dragon Balls in the show. When people check out, they checked out. And with everything that these people go through, we still got to remember we just watching kids. Even though they got some incredible powers, we watching kids go through these things and just beginning their training. A lot of times, all these situations are pretty much them getting in over their heads and having to rise to the occasion. And in the midst of that, unfortunately, not everybody's gonna come back home, and that's feel like I'm yet again quoting Tony Stark, but that's the hero game, right? So, yeah, I just think it deepens the show. It makes people care more because, despite people might not liking it, you care about a show more when you know there's stakes.
Mm-hmm.
When and it's nice to see again coming off of being, Arrowverse watching somebody make a decision and commit to it. Because even with the whole Laurel thing, we basically got the actress back in a different way, but we got her back anyway. So it's just nice to see them, commit to something like this and to know down the line this could be potentially a Gran Torino or somebody else. You never know. They're not going to be able to what's the nurse with they're not going to be able to smooch everybody back to life, and they're definitely not going to be able to use that kid to rewind everything, which I'm glad they readily addressed quick because I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people was gonna be like, oh well, clearly she's gonna give Muriel's powers back. She's gonna rewind Night Eye, and she's definitely gonna do that for All Might. And it's like, what's they hit the follow by? No, 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 that's not gonna happen. So because she's as much of a victim of her powers as somebody else can be. So
Yeah, they went full Dikembe on that explanation. No, no, no. Wag of the finger and all. I think what the really impressive thing is we went, a slow escalation. Season one was, oh, they attacked the schools. Season two was, they're attacking us in the open. Season three is, oh, they're attacking All Might and they're going to kill them. Now it's like, oh, we're not really doing anything to involve the heroes. Like, fuck you. Like, they re-minimized the magnitude of the scope of things. It's not all for one or one, all for one, devising these giant monsters to kill All Might and to destroy the hero population. It's now just the Yakuza trying to find their legs again. It's a very minimal, simple idea, but it had such grand stakes in this. But the one thing that I think they did a great job of doing is we haven't seen the top 5, 10 heroes. You know, like
Yeah, yeah,
Todoroki's father, who's the new number one. He's not around. Um,
yeah. Endeavor. What's that? King Orca or
King,
Killer Orca or something?
yeah, Killer Orca. He's not around. There was Rimshot. What's his name? The ninja dude who turns into like a paper pole or whatever. Forget his
Yeah,
name.
I forgot. It's funny because we got most of these guys when they invaded the League of Villains. Is because I don't think the Kamanaru Woods. He's not one of them, is he?
No, but he's rising up the ranks.
Yeah,
Mount Lady. It's like
our lady.
a lot of the bigger names weren't a part of this raid for a reason because they wanted to reintroduce you to the idea of the emotional element. So they got what's his name, Lockheed or Keylock or Dreadlock, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
I forget his name. And they had a few other smaller named heroes like Fat Gum, and the explainer was we're going with lesser known heroes because these are more territorial heroes as opposed to the more national heroes. So they have a better understanding on the regions that they're in. But they also ended up doing it because they reintroduced us to less powerful heroes, but they introduced us not just to less powerful heroes, but to new people with new personalities. And instead of seeing it as, well, they're not as strong as All Might or Endeavor, we just met new people, is all. So
yeah,
their well being was still as, it was still weighed on us. Like, we didn't want any of them to go because they're all so cool, but they also made them very mortal in how they presented them. So, like, it wasn't this idea like, well, Endeavor would just walk in and roast the entire play. It's like not even a big
yeah,
deal. So they got rid of that element, and it felt very, very big again, even though the stakes were much lower and the talent was much more restrictive. So I thought that was a really great way to go about it.
yeah. I mean, you kind of have to you have to train your audience because it's very easy to fall in love with a character like All Might, and then that's all you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because not only is it voiced by a phenomenal voice actor in Chris Sabat, but the powers, the looks, there's the mannerisms, the ha ha villain, all that stuff. Uh, this plays a it plays a great part in just the overall, just the ambiance of that character. But then you take that out, and then people get sad, and then you bring in other characters. Like even the belly beam guy has had moments, right?
Oh
Like
God, him.
he's they've done a great job at allowing you because it's very easy before this season to brush somebody like Kirishima off like, oh, all he does is get hard. That's all he's gonna do. Maybe he can block a couple things. Like, no,
Hey,
you take him serious
Kirishima
when
and
you
me in
saw
high
that.
school, same powers, man.
Different objectives.
Different objectives, same powers though.
Same determination, same drive. Uh, uh, but yeah, it's very easy to brush off somebody like Kirishima, and then you see him in that new form of his, man, and it's just like you can't help but take him serious. And same with the other class heroes like Uravity and Fropy. Like just because they can't hit something and blow it back 200 feet, don't mean that they don't serve an important purpose. Like it's not always what you can do is how you can use what you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and I think that's been a great component of this season. Like if Sun Eater, like perfect example is Mirio. Do you know how much that just goes into that guy being able to use his abilities like he had even before they got taken? Like the dude had to focus on his breathing so he wouldn't constantly fall through stuff. He had to make sure like his outfit was made of a piece of him so it wouldn't so he wouldn't fall through it. Like there was so much that went into him being who he was, and then he lost his powers and he's still kicking ass. So it's like it's so many nuances that they put in the show to me that made this show shine. Specifically when they started off as slow as they did and built up to that fight where Deku went off at 100%. And you think about the fact that this kid is on a completely different level, that he's literally destroying his body faster than the girl can repair it, which puts him in the perfect position to use 100% of all for one. I mean one for all, and it's just it's nuts. I don't think the show gets enough credit for the writers really And other animes are doing this. Like I'm currently watching Black Clover. They do this too, where they make you feel the emotional impact of 50 episodes prior in one moment. It's crazy.
Hmm. What's Black Clover even about?
Oh, it's funny because I'm not, I'm not a real big magic guy, but it is this show about this world of basically magicians who mages, if you will, who have these books and they cast spells and whatnot, and it's primarily about these two young characters, one named Asta, one named Yuno, who grow up poor, very much in a class system based world that you see a lot of the people who come from the royal clans have are primarily the most strongest. And it's basically a world where everybody can use magic. And then there's basically nobody who can use it. There's nobody who can't use magic until this boy is born. These two kids are brought to this village, like I said, Asta and Yuno, and one grows up to be just phenomenal at everything. And then the other one grows up to not have any magic, and he's basically cast aside and ridiculed for most of the show until he shows to have Goku-esque qualities, if you will. And it's just really cool. They do a lot with great characters and stuff. And even again, Chris Sabat comes up and you're just like, what does this guy not voice? What show does this guy not in, right? So yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, My Hero is just on a different level. It's just on. I know a lot of people kind of cast it out because it started slow, and they wanted to see more Bakugo and Todoroki, but it's gonna pay off so much in the long run when this class has to go against a foe, and it's just not Deku and Bakugo because or Todoroki because those are the only characters we got to focus on because that's what everybody was more geared towards. So
And that again kind of goes back in hand what we were talking about before with the idea like of showing up only for certain characters and only making the show about certain characters. I'm not watching My Hero for any specific character. I'm watching it for all of them because I think there's so much there that all of them can be relevant, necessary, and could carry a show on their own, with the exception of that goddamn centipede hero. He's fucking creepy. What the fuck was that thing? No. Marcus, that thing was
well,
weird.
what was
The,
that? Oh, you talking about the with the Shitsuki when they fused?
no. I'm talking about in My Hero with the centipede hero, like the dude with who's like a giant bug head.
Oh yeah, the roach. Yeah, you know it was funny because all them years watching DBZ, I learned so late that King Kai was a roach. Um, it was just weirdly devastating in a way. But yeah, that was creepy. Trying to see who else. The Bubble Girl. That's basically one thing away from being in like a Avatar porn. The chick that works with that was working under Night Eye.
Yes.
The the blue chick. I'm like, yo, man. Between her and our girl that has the creation quirk that makes bazookas out of her boobs and stuff. Uh,
Marcus, you missed it because the joke isn't that she makes bazookas out of her boobs, it's that her boobs are bazookas, so you just say her bazookas. Or her boobzookas.
damn it, he beat me to it.
Yeah.
Was 1 second off. But yeah, that's there was that weird scene too where he had her on that wheel tickling her. I'm like, oh, this scene is not. I don't think the scene is coming off how they intended because I'm not laughing. It's not laughing is what I'm admitting right now. But yeah, that was yeah that guy was that's creepy. And even creepier. Like, what episode are you on?
I just watched the current one, so I'm
Got you.
whatever the next dub is that's coming out on Saturday is the one so I just watched
Got
the
you
episode
because
where
yeah,
Night Eye died.
got you. So that's the also freaking Shigaraki, man, and his crew. The level of revenge that they got on Chisaki, where the magician dude, literally just took a piece of his arm. It was like, payback's a B. And then freaking Shigaraki decayed. It's like you can't even. We're not gonna dequirk you. You're just not gonna be able to do it. Oh, and by the way, we're gonna take all your life's work. Just leave you here in your own pool of failure. And then they did that shot where the three of them was walking away as old dude was screaming. That's a poster.
Yup.
That's a poster, man. But yeah, we getting some weird. And this is only like the surface level, because if they unveiled a character like Sandman, we got a lot of other people coming down the pipe. But I'm not looking forward to too many more Roach heads. Like that came out of nowhere, and he has an awkward voice.
Yeah, he's like Mickey Mouse with a roach head. It's weird.
It's so funny. Did you catch that one part where they was talking about the rock guy, the basically the only black guy, the guy with the fro,
Yeah.
uh, and they did the flashback to his wife when his son was first born. She was like, "Wow, he came out a lot like you."
There was no doubt whose child that was in post delivery. Let's be honest. So, real quickly, apparently, there's a Lego set that is up for votes that features classic 1980s WWF characters, including Hulk Hogan, Jake Roberts, Macho Man Randy Savage, Ted DiBiase. I think that's Ric Flair and the Ultimate Warrior. It's one of the Lego ideas. It's up to vote. I thought this was pretty cool. I thought this was a nice way to end the show. Just kind of looking at a possible piece of history being made. I don't know why, with all the things that are going on in the world of Legos, why pro wrestling hasn't been featured. It's a brilliant idea. It's simple to do. It's all about the little characters. A lot of resale value. You could build your own sets and stuff. Like it's literally like the
Yeah,
perfect blend of ideas.
that's really fun. I mean, because ironically enough, one of their shows, what was that, WWE Camp? That was actually entertaining for me. That's no longer a thing. And then they also, obviously, they've been collaborating with Scooby Doo for some of the animated movies. But something like this, like they could very much do like a little Lego WWE Legends movie. I think it would work just because of the personalities, the bombastic personalities of these guys, like Ultimate Lego Warrior, Ultimate Lego Hogan, to calm it down on the brother, and and the Macho Man thing. I think that's something like that could work. But like you said, this is really cool. It's always cool seeing that old WWE logo. Obviously, this is also the era of quality managers, so that's the thing as well. But yeah, they be kind of foolish not to capitalize on this, because this is a collector's item for so many of their fans.
I mean, even though like half this lineup is nothing but racists and homophobes, I would buy the shit out of this. Like legit. So there's actually a lot more. I'm gonna send you the other part too. Let's see. There's a backstage area. That's
Oh
pretty
wow,
damn cool.
oh wow.
Mean Gene's part of the set. There's a little control room. I don't know how I feel about this black dude cameraman. Is that offensive, Marcus?
Wait a minute, hold on, black dude, cameraman. What did I miss?
You go to
Uh,
image 5 out of 15. I don't know if he's like, because it looks like he's like super black, but maybe it's just the way like the lights hitting him. I don't know.
yeah, that's awkward. Um, and his camera looks like a gun. Um,
Oh no, Marcus.
but it is like he's like actually holding a cannon. But that's wow, that is kind of cool. But yeah, was that even a thing back then? Did they have black cameramen back then? Probably.
Well, they
Um,
didn't have black stars, so they had to have them somewhere.
we got to diversify somewhere, Vince. You got to meet this quota, man.
Hey, Vince, we
Oh,
have to have one black employee, and Vince is just looking around. Oh, God, I don't know. Cameraman, maybe? You just hear the one black cameraman in the audience going, woohoo!
it's so funny because me and Chad always take a road to get to like a previously referenced joke. So as a cameraman, now I'm trying to imagine maybe in another life this was Xavier Woods because we know how good he is with a camera.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-bum. Just a joke, you guys. It's just a joke. Unless it's being made at your expense page. I think this is a cool idea. I would love to see it happen, and I would totally shell out the $125 this would cost in order to buy it. Especially if they had like newer Lego pieces coming out, like on top of it, like Lego cages or like more Lego figures for it. Like, I may be 33, but you bet your ass I will build the shit out of a Lego set if I'm given the opportunity. Like, legit, will still happen. Still happen. Whew. All right. Good show. Marcus, do you have any final thoughts,
Yeah,
any
man.
final ideas that you want to touch on before we call it a night?
Oh no, that's pretty much been everything. Like you said, great show. That was a great note to end it on. Definitely between this and the Walker Texas reboot, I have been surprised tonight.
It has been a night. So, you can find us on Twitter. NERD CORP. We're also on Instagram at Real Nerd Corp, REAL, NERD CORP. Our woman crush for the week was
Mila Kunis.
Mila Kunis. I was like, who the fuck did I pick? And our rest of the week is Drew McIntyre. I was watching that 70s show and I was like, oh shit, I have to do the WCW. So I'm like, all right, Mila Kunis, you're up. And Drew because he won the Royal Rumble. Marcus can be found on his personal Twitter account at ParadoxKid, ParaDoxKid.
That's the kid.
You can also find him on his occasional podcast. It's the True Penny Podcast at True Penny Show on Twitter at TruePennyshow. You can also find me
Yep.
on my personal Twitter account at Chad Nerdcorp, CHAD, NERDCORP. That's CHAD, NERDCORP. Also on Instagram at Chad's Photo at CHADSPHOTOHUT. If you missed any links, you can just go to the website realnerdcorp.com. We got all the links there. We got all of our podcasts there. But if you want to download the podcast straight to your mobile device, you can do so by downloading the Podbean app today and looking up Real Nerd Corp on the Podbean app. That's REALNERDCRP on the app today. Or you can just go to the website. It's realnerdcorp.podbean.com and do your direct downloads from there. We're also on iTunes at Nerdcorp, NERDCRP. And I think that's everything. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias on Twitch and YouTube and all that. Links at the website. And be sure to, follow along as we talk about more shit. We should be back tomorrow night, me and Swisher. We'll finally get to our first episode of Chuck versus the Podcast, our retrospect of the great series that was Chuck. So, unless Matt, I just called you Matt. Unless Marcus has anything else he wants to add for the night, we are done. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. And remember to read more comics. Marcus, you're up.
Good night, me.